I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Mariel Gates, a graduate from Stanford University and the University of Oregon School of Law. She is bringing her personal experiences and her understanding of addiction to her debut novel, Briarwood Girls. She is a former world-class triathlete, a distance runner, and she witnessed firsthand the harsh realities of addiction in competitive environments, and she is bravely sharing these experiences through her narrative. We are delighted to have Mariel join us today on Spotlight. We thank the folks at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Mariel, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Your book is amazing. It puts a different face on addiction. We have a Hollywood version of addiction where, it's dirty, it's nasty. And a lot of us have addictions creep into our lives without even realizing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every day.
Yeah. Tell me, what inspired you to write Briarwood Girls?
Well, there was a big piece of, I shouldn't say big piece. There's a piece of my life that I came in close contact with addiction myself. My father worked on addiction. He was a neuropsychopharmacologist, studied a lot of addiction, primarily cocaine and hard drugs. But there was a prevalence in, the world around me, even as, right now a suburban mom, where addiction was really prevalent and very kind of taboo to talk about. We don't, like you said, we see the Hollywood dramatized version of addiction, but addicts are people. And I think I was trying to put a personal face on addiction and kind of allow people that might have had a family member or themselves been addicts access to a narrative that wasn't dirty and dark,
right,
but human.
Right. Yeah, people might have just gone from one glass of white wine with dinner to 2 glasses of white wine with dinner to a bottle to some pills. I mean, that's how it grows. Addiction is kind of incremental. Like you said to me in our pre-interview, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to blow up my life today and become an addict, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And there's reasons people get there. And I think it's important to understand the humanness of addiction. And there is something driving this beast. People don't want to be addicts. I think people wake up in the morning and can tell themselves, gosh, you're an addict, you need to stop. But actually being able to stop or seeking help is so hard and so, like we said, stigmatized. And I wish that it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's a real human experience. I mean, we don't blame the cancer patient for getting cancer.
Right.
And yet we look at an addict and say, oh gosh, we need to stay away from that person. Don't talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the person who's making that comment is pouring themselves another glass of wine. Tell me a little bit about rehab. You're not a real fan of rehab. You think it fails on many levels. It's certainly not accessible to the vast number of addicts out there. So what are your thoughts on rehab?
Well, I think there's a big problem. And I think there's a big problem in our country and in our healthcare system. And I also think there's a big problem in the way we think about rehabilitation. You can't, something that's different with an addict versus a cancer patient is that you can't fix an addict unless they're willing to address it themselves, right? So we can push people to like a diversion program and say, hey, you really need therapy and rehabilitation. But you're not fixing the underlying problem. Why are you here? Why are you trying to escape? What is this giving you that the people around you are not? What hurts are you trying to heal with drugs? And just taking away the drugs doesn't fix the problem.
Exactly. It's the symptom, it's not the cause.
Right.
Yeah, people are basically self-medicating because they're depressed, they're anxious, they were abused, for a number of reasons.
Absolutely. And I think that those are the things that we need to address before throwing them into a program. And I think a lot of these programs are, they're businesses.
Yeah.
They're there to take your insurance money. They're there to take tens of thousands of dollars. They may or may not have people working in them that have dealt with addiction themselves. And yet taking them away for 30 days and saying, okay, now you should be able to go back out into the world and not use a drug again,
Right.
is a very, I guess, naive way to address it.
Right, right. Because basically all they've done is wean the people off of the substance for those 28 days or 30 days or whatever it is, where they haven't addressed that underlying issue. Let's talk about your book for a second. Briarwood Girls. Who are the Briarwood Girls?
The Briarwood Girls are different characters suffering from different, maybe mental health issues, that found themselves abusing some sort of substance, whether it was alcohol or cocaine or methamphetamines or something to that effect. It is a series of, well, each chapter kind of dives into a different life of a person suffering from addiction. But I think what I was trying to do with that book was show that every addict out there, whether or not it's cocaine or methamphetamine or alcohol, has a reason for using a crutch. And that they are people. They're not dirty or want to be addicts, or they have embarrassing hurts. They have abuse in their past. And they're all kind of here in this one setting. The main character, Aubrey, finds herself there, and she doesn't really think she belongs there, right? These are crazy people that she does not identify with. But through their stories, she finds that maybe she does identify with them. Maybe they are all humans, or moms, or sisters, or cousins, or friends, and maybe their pain needs to be addressed in a more humanistic way.
Exactly. A little more empathetic, a little more understanding. Like I said, a lot of the critics are substance abusers themselves, and they don't even realize it. And that's the problem.
Absolutely.
Because we do have this Hollywood notion of a lost weekend where somebody is having, DTs and hanging onto the walls. And it's not in many cases. It's a suburban
No.
mom who's drinking a magnum of wine every night and popping
Exactly.
her Xanax and popping her Prozac and popping her Zoloft. And, that's today's addict.
It is.
Yeah.
Today's addict might not be getting a DUI, might not be killing somebody on the freeway, or a homeless person on the side of the street that you don't want to make eye contact with. That's not necessarily all the drug addict.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to address them on all levels.
Absolutely. Your character, Aubrey, was so compelling, you actually did a breakout novel about her. Tell us about that.
So I did. I wrote the prequel, and it's about Aubrey, and it's why or how she came to be Aubrey in Briarwood Girls. She is a phenomenal athlete. She goes to a Ivy League university, and she suffers trauma. Traumas that are very real to me and very real to people I know. And she is a very accessible young woman suffering from a lot of things that we see in today's Ivy League, well, maybe not even Ivy League, but NCAA culture. Like I said, she's trying to be everything for everyone, and she's finding the system failing her in many ways.
You took parts of your own real life experience and put them into the character of Aubrey. Was that difficult? Because, writing is a very personal thing that we put out in the public. We're putting our innermost thoughts, our most hidden desires in some cases, our most hidden secrets onto paper for the world to read. Was it difficult? Was it cathartic? Tell me about that.
It was extremely difficult, and extremely cathartic. I feel like once I was able to wrap my brain around Aubrey and allow her the grace to develop and fail, I was kind of able to put some of my own failings to rest. I'm human. And that was really important to me. I was able to kind of move on with some chapters in my life that might not be chapters I want everybody to know about. but they're chapters that are important. And I felt like if I didn't put it out there, I would be doing myself and possibly the next Aubrey a disservice. I have a daughter, I have two boys, and I want them to be able to fail massively and know that they can still come to me and I'll help scoop them up off the ground like my parents did me. It's kind of like walking around naked in the public. All of a sudden this creature is out there and she is very much me. There's a lot that's not, but it is very much me. And so it is hard to do. But my own kids kind of give me that sense of confidence. I have my daughter has hypotonic cerebral palsy, and she went out on the stage 2 nights ago and danced. She was told she'd never walk. She's 4, and she went and danced.
Wonderful.
And if she can do those kinds of things, I can put my darkest secrets out there and hopefully help someone. Hopefully give someone the courage to say, you know what, I need help.
Right.
This is not okay. What's happened to me is not okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about the prevalence of addiction in the world of competitive sports.
Well, I think we saw a lot of that in the early 2000s with Lance Armstrong. I mean, that was like the biggest, he's doping. But that's not really where drugs are in sport. There are so many athletes out there struggling with anxiety, depression. A lot of us have been through some sort of horrible, abuse situation. And I think in some ways, that pain allows us to move forward even stronger. We say, okay, I'm hurting. I'm going to put this all out on the track, you know? And in some way, that is a constructive way to use that pain. But at the end of the day, that pain is still there and those athletes are still suffering. And it's, like I said, taboo to go seek mental health when you're at the top of your game.
Right.
How can this number 1 pick from high school going to an Ivy League school need help with depression? And how do you ask? So I think a lot of times these athletes, and myself included, wanted our outsides to match our insides. And the only way to do that is self-destruction, unfortunately. And there needs to be a way to help people like me and like former me.
What is that way? Coming to terms with the frailties of your humanity, forgiving yourself, really realizing your parents might have made mistakes, that society, violated you somehow. Being honest with yourself, having a good dialogue with someone and talking about it. Is it all of these things? Is it some of these things? What do you think the answer is?
Well, it is all of those things, but I think at the very root of it, we have to understand that talking about it is very hard. Asking for help is incredibly hard. It's probably the hardest thing a human can do, and the bravest. How can we help young adults, people coming into their own, ask for help in a way that's not embarrassing or feeling judged? We need to kind of provide an education to those coaches, to those mentors, to people around them, check-ins saying, hey, you did great out there today. Is there anything, you need to talk about? I see maybe you're struggling in this way. Do you want to sit down and talk? My door's open. There were a lot of times my coaches had opportunities to sit me down and say, hey, I see you're struggling here.
Right.
But they didn't. Instead, they denied me a uniform because I wasn't an extra small, or, chose to focus on something or someone else. And that's too bad. They had an opportunity to help me grow and drop the ball.
Well, the good news is you have picked up that ball and you have written 2 wonderful books where I think readers on one level or another will recognize themselves The first book is called Briarwood Girls. It tells the stories of a series of women who are dealing with different stages of addiction. And then there's a novel that came from Briarwood Girls. It is called Aubrey. These are novels, but they are based in real life experience, and they are profound, especially in this day and age where drugs and alcohol are widely abused. Mariel Gates, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.